The Digital Photography Cafe show is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe show. Join hosts Trevor Current and Joseph Cristina as they serve up the hottest photography news and commentary.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is episode 215. I'm Joseph Cristina here with my co-host Trevor Current. Hey Trevor, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm doing exceptional. What's going on over there?
Keeping busy as usual, same old. Actually been working on a project, been a very long-term project. And I really don't even want to talk about it now and like jinx it and stuff. So as soon as it's ready for prime time, I will certainly be talking about it more. But I had a little bit more time to devote to it, so I wanted to take advantage of it.
Yeah, get it done, Trevor. Get it done.
Get it done. That's right.
I know.
So what about you? You've been busy over there too, huh?
Yeah, I've been really busy. I talked to you guys about it, and I talked to you about it too, Trev. That I was working on the brand new edition of the PRT, which is the photo reference tool. And right. I've been prototyping and making changes and kind of listening to all of you guys' reviews and what you want and things that you want in the next iteration. Well, finally, after about 4 or 5 months of prototyping and getting in samples and testing and retesting and testing again, I finally just got in an entire box of the brand new PRTs. I'm just so psyched. I can't even tell you. It's been literally almost half a year that I've been working on this, and it's finally done.
I know. That's awesome. I know. You've been talking about it for a while. I mean, Joe and I bounce a lot of ideas off each other all the time, with our own personal projects, obviously with the show, with client work even.
Right.
And yeah, I know you've been talking about this for a long time. You've been working on it, creating new artwork and
right.
tweaking again. And yeah, now you got something that is really pretty freaking awesome, man.
Yeah. It's just, I couldn't ask for anything more. It's finally done, guys. This is what it looks like. This is the PRT. It's inside of its poly bag or whatnot. You have your insert here, and then on the back, this is what the PRT looks like. So I got one that's taken out. So on one side you have this gray card, which we all know what they do. And then you have, of course, all of your exposure gradients as far as getting contrast, getting your lighting correct and whatnot, swatches. And on the back you have this that we've been talking about for so long. And this right here is the dual axis color control that I invented. So I can't even tell you. Now that it's here, it's just like, oh my God. It's just so unbelievable.
And like what I really like about this new iteration is that dual axis color control.
Right.
We've talked about this extensively, and it's probably, good time obviously to share with our listeners and viewers. But, a lot of photographers, and Joe, you kind of did a great job explaining this to me as to where the problem lies. So, a lot of photographers, you go to an event, let's say, and you're shooting, and maybe you shoot a gray card, maybe you don't. Maybe you're using something to balance, your white balance and your color balance, and you're trying to get your photos neutral up front, or if not, you're doing it in post.
Right.
Well, as we know, a neutral photo really is not desirable.
No.
You don't want something that's so neutral. You want the skin tones to have warmth to them. You want, warm colored walls to look warm. You
Right.
don't want them to look, sterile. So dialing in that color balance, even in post-production, is really critical. And I know a lot of you out there, you go into Lightroom or whatever image editing app you're using, and you grab the temperature slider and you move it left to right, and you warm it or you cool it, and you get something that you think looks good. The problem is it doesn't really look good.
Right.
It may be acceptable, but it's not exactly right, because a lot of skin tones then can turn very yellow.
Right.
And yellow skin is not good. I mean, you need to have that pink to it. So, and this is where it always got a little bit of confusing for me, right? So that's one axis. So the second axis does your tint.
Right. That's the whole idea of the dual axis control. You have your blue, yellow on one axis, and then you have your magenta and green on the other axis. And if you're not, if you're not controlling both, it's a fail. Just like you said, if you just, I've done it in the past where you just grab your temperature slider and you move it up and you're warming.
Sure.
And then if you look really close, everyone's eyes are kind of like jaundice looking, just slightly yellow because basically you just added yellow to the entire image.
Yeah, you're making your whites look more yellow.
Right. And that's not how you warm. So me, I'm like the color temperature guy. So everything is color. I'm a fine artist. I went to school for fine art. So I've mixed paint. I look at stuff a little different, and that's just the way I make my products. Also, it's color theory. But this was just something that I came up with that people don't need to know color theory. They don't need to know how to balance, color. It just simply does it for you. You take the picture of this backside, which is your dual axis color control, in the same lighting of the room. You take a picture of it, and later on in post-production, you can basically warm or cool, but then do it by adding tint at the exact same time so that you get a nice even balance. The difference is literally night and day. It's not the same. And just like you alluded to, so many people will just simply take a gray card. And those are the advanced people. I mean, I should say that, when you first start, what are you doing? You're taking a picture, and then in post-production, you're taking your little temperature eyedropper and clicking all over the screen, trying to get the right, color temperature, and it takes forever.
Right.
And then as you progress, you put a gray card in the scene, and you're like, okay, let's just do that. We can click on the gray card, and we neutralize the whole image. The problem is like you said, neutral is just neutral. It's just, it's sterile. No one wants that. So we just go and grab that slider and move it up into yellow, and it's just not how you do it.
It's just not right. And I tell you, color theory really is its whole, a whole study in and of itself. I mean, that was a year of my life in art school.
I was going to say a year of color theory is what I took too.
My first year of school, I mean, we had a whole class devoted to color theory. Learning, the complements and all the different stuff, and learning about how colors interact with each other and how they balance out each other or counterbalance each other.
Right.
And that really is a study in and of itself. And most people, I mean, unless you went to art school, probably really don't even understand it.
Right.
No. And that's what's really nice about the PRT is that it kind of takes the need for that additional education out of the loop, and you can kind of simplify the process a little bit and make something that's appealing.
Right.
But the biggest advantage of this is that you can create repeatable results.
Exactly.
Eyeballing it all the time, eyeballing temperature, eyeballing tint even. I mean, for a one-off shot, you can do something that looks good for sure. But if you're doing a whole event, or you're doing, 50 weddings a year.
Right.
No, I mean, there are
it's
people out there that do that. You want those consistent results from event to event to event to event.
Right.
And using a target like this and having those capabilities really helps to create that consistency, those repeatable results.
And I shared with you the other day, and I'll share with the audience, a perfect scenario here is, how many, let's say you take a wedding and you have 600 pictures in the wedding, and you're going to edit, and you're doing all of your corrections. You're doing your crops, you're doing your selections, and then you're doing your color calibration throughout the scenes, right? Throughout the different rooms. Well, you have, let's say you do 3 sittings to get this done, right? Because it takes hours to do this, right? So every time you come, let's say you edit 200 and 200 in the last 200, and you separate it the course of a couple of days or maybe even a couple of hours. I promise you, every time that you come back to edit the next 200 and you know that you're getting that color balance right, when you go back and look through all 600 simultaneously all together, you will see exactly the delineation when you moved, because
from one sitting to the next.
And that's just how our eyes work. Our eyes see things based on the colors around us, based on the time of day it is outside. There's a lot of factors that really make that difference. And if you have something that's in this, in your shot, that's a consistent, like you said, it's never going to change. You're going to get perfect color every single time. I can't even tell you how much time it has saved me. Just simply, like, for example, shooting a wedding with like 15, sometimes 2,000 images. And if I have an assistant, they all have one of these cards. And then later, after the fact, I click on it. I get the temperature just right, and then I go copy that temperature across, 400 or 500 images in that specific room, and then another 4 or 5 images in another room. It's literally done. I'm not sitting there for the old days when it's just for hours and hours and hours. You don't need to do that.
Yeah, nobody has time for that. I mean, realistically, we say all the time, time is money. Time is money. We all have so much going on. I mean, many of our audience are weekend warriors. They have the day job and they go out and shoot on the weekends. Well, you want to get stuff done, right? I mean, you don't really have the time to spend hours and hours doing and redoing.
Yeah.
But kind of going along with the whole color theory and creating consistent results, it's also your environment that you work in.
Exactly.
And this kind of moves into a bigger topic that we've kind of touched on in the past and can even circle back to in the future. But your environment, your studio, is so important. I mean, we have gone over the years, in the work that I do with high end professional print work. And stuff. I mean, when I would go to a separation house where they're creating the films and stuff, and we would go into the retouching department, they're like in the bowels of the building. These guys are overworked and underpaid for sure, and they are put in almost like the worst environment you would want to be in, but it needs to be that way. I mean, they would have them in the basement in like the darkest room with no windows, and the door is closed, and the window in the door was covered with something so no ambient light could come in from civilization. Absolutely. And they've got a monitor with a hood on it to shade out any type of ambient light. And the monitor,
and every wall is gray, Trevor, right?
Is gray. Yeah. And the monitor is perfectly color calibrated. Right. Now, in that very, secluded environment, you know that you have that consistency. Yeah. And now you use a color tool like the PRT in your images for doing your retouching, and it's going to be right. Yeah, you're going to be right. And that is really important. When color matters, your environment and the tools you use are super important.
Talking about environment, I love that you brought that up. One of the changes that were made with the PRT has to do with environment. I had a lot of underwater guys that shoot coral, shoot fish, this type of stuff. And they're like, every 5 feet, every 10 feet I go down, it gets blue and more blue and bluer and bluer. And it's very hard for me to discern, what is that color? So is there, what can you do about that? Well, I addressed that issue by now making the PRT basically out of a high quality plastic, like a PVC type of plastic, and then putting a nice matte coating on it, especially formulated coating, so that when you go underwater, and let's say you're 40 feet down, you can actually shoot one of these cards, and then later in post, you click on it, and you're like, oh my God, that's the actual color.
That's what the color
that's what
is.
It looks like, because even your eyes under there are seeing blue. It looks, it doesn't look right. Yeah. But then later on, you're like, oh my God. And now it's perfectly balanced because you'll just have it right every single time. So this is one of the things that, talking about environment, this is huge, absolutely huge for the divers. This is...
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a diver myself. I'm certified. I've been diving for many, many years, and that's absolutely the case. I mean, we could be diving up here in New Jersey on a shipwreck in the North Atlantic Ocean here, and it is dark and murky and cloudy and everything else, and colors will look a certain way. mostly green and dark. But I've also dove in Cozumel, Mexico, and it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, that is probably the most beautiful location that I've ever dove. And the water is crystal clear, but it absolutely has that blue tint to it. And towards the surface, the colors look a lot more accurate. But absolutely, the deeper you go, the darker and the bluer things get, and your colors are not what they are, really. And when you're shooting, with an underwater housing, if you're not using flash, your photos are not going to look good. If you're using flash, everything is going to be, again, back to being very neutral, right? That's what flash does. So now, you, again, using a target like this, not that you're going to have a fish swim by with this target on, but you can hold it out in front of you, or have your dive buddy hold it out. You shoot them with the target, and at that same depth and lighting situation, you're going to be able to balance.
That's exactly
those
what the divers are saying. We can go to a shipwreck, as you were saying, take a picture of this thing once. So you have one shot of it. And now every shot that you do at that depth will be perfect. You just balance off that card. From then on, you got perfect color for the entire shipwreck. So, but anyways, guys, we put together a quick promo for the product, a little ad spot. So I want to kind of show you what that ad spot is, what it looks like, and then we'll move on to a really good, deep show with a lot of good content today. So hang in there. We'll be right back. The 3-in-1 photo reference tool, featuring the revolutionary dual access color control, is a versatile all-in-one color reference accessory designed to help photographer and videographer dial in white balance, exposure, and color temperature. The PRT features a large gray card with center target, making autofocus lockup easy while providing fast temperature neutralization in camera or in post-production. A 12-step exposure gradient helps produce perfect tonal reproduction, balancing highlights with deep, rich blacks. Most photographers color balance by eye, using the temperature slider to warm or cool an image. This method delivers inconsistent and inaccurate results. The backside of the PRT features our dual access color control system, which addresses this problem. With a single click, this system will automatically adjust color temperature and apply color tint to produce optimal and repeatable results for beautiful photos every time. From in-camera to post-production, the 3-in-1 photo reference tool helps push your creativity to the next level, providing complete color control over all your imaging creations. Grab one from your local or online camera dealer, or visit our website at jcristina.com.
All right, we're back. And so over the last couple shows, we've been talking about some marketing ideas and some things with Facebook and Twitter. We've also been talking about 360 video being one of the hot new things out there right now. And so kind of combining both, this week, Facebook announced 360 photos are coming to the Facebook timeline, which is...
Yeah, it looks interesting,
yeah,
right?
It is interesting. The functionality is going to be similar to the way the 360 photos work. You put your cursor on it or your finger on your phone, and you drag around, and it gives you the ability to see things. This can actually work with a true 360 photo, or basically like a pano. It will basically stitch your pano together so it meets, and if you don't shoot it just right, you're going to have that seam or whatever. But, it gives you that cool effect now. So it really, I mean, these social networks, Facebook in particular, I mean, lately, it really does seem like they're doing more to create an interesting user experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine for all of our friends out there that are real estate people, how wonderful this would be to be able to just bring in someone right into a kitchen and then 360 the kitchen. There's a lot of possibilities as far as even, let's say, a photographer. Maybe we're doing a behind the scenes and we're trying to show people this fashion shoot that we're doing. It's really cool to be able to take that shot and do a 360 and now see the photographer working and see the model and see the hair and makeup cosmetologist, the MUA to the left, and then the dresser to the right. And, whatever. It's a really neat way of seeing the world with this 360 process.
It is. And you know what? This really opens up another new opportunity for photographers to offer a new product. There's a camera out there called the Ricoh Theta S that shoots 360 videos. You can also pull still images and create these 360 images. But you're absolutely right. I mean, real estate. Real estate agents are relying on Facebook more and more than they are their own local website. I mean, of course, if they're part of Weichert or Century 21 or something, I mean, you have the listing among the corporate sites and you have it broken down into local. But a lot of these agents, I mean, the money in their pocket is how well they do in sales. So they're getting smarter. They're starting to use social networks more and more. And they're utilizing Facebook, and this is another opportunity to really be able to show one of their listings and get a lot of interest. So
and now that we see, moving on, now that we see Facebook and others really looking at video as being the de facto.
Yep.
If you do video, you stick it on Facebook, it's going to rank higher than if you do a photo.
Yep.
If you're just typing text in, it's ranked at the bottom. And video right now is just primary. First and foremost, that's how they rank. Google's been doing that forever.
Sure.
If you do a search, if you do a search for something in Google, if there's a video about that topic that you're searching for, that video will come up at the top.
That's right.
Period.
Yep.
So video is just powerful. And now there's this new item that's replacing Boinks TV for live streaming on YouTube and Facebook called Mimo Live, and that looks really, really cool.
Yeah,
right?
this is software you run on your computer, and it's basically like having a camera studio on your desktop.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. It gives you the interface to input your cameras. And whether you're using a breakout box or a Thunderbolt or however you're doing it. But you can bring in multiple sources, you can switch, you can add graphics, 3D, 2D, really awesome stuff. And then be able to link into YouTube, into Facebook through their live streaming component and be able to broadcast live. And as you were saying, text ranks at the bottom on Facebook, photos is the next one up, videos above that, but live video right now is at the top.
Yep.
If you're doing live video, if you look in your sidebar, when the next time you're logged into your Facebook account, in the left sidebar, there's a little tag that says find local live videos, or live videos, search the live videos. And you click on that and it's going to show you all live videos that Facebook thinks is relevant to you. This is huge. It's a search engine within a whole search engine here. I mean, this is really, really huge. And if you can figure out a way to utilize this either for your own business or to use for your clients to promote their businesses, again, great opportunity here.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on, Sony. We talk about Sony a lot because they're just doing a lot.
They're doing a lot,
right? They're just on it. They're doing everything.
Yeah.
So there was a rumor, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, about them having this special meeting in June.
Right.
And they were bringing in all of, let's say, the A-listers for Sony, and they were supposed to discuss something. There was speculation that it's about a new camera, maybe a new A-mount camera that's coming out. Maybe it's a brand new A7. Maybe it's the R3, the new one, or possibly one of the new RX 100s, like a Mark IV or something. But after that devastating earthquake in Japan, this might not happen at all, or it might postpone a lot of these possible new releases. Especially, we do think that there's going to be some new releases at Photokina. That's right around the corner.
It is.
So
it's in September. Yeah, it's September. And then with this meeting, rumored to be in June, I mean, we're really only talking a few months. I mean, is that going to affect Sony's release of the products at this point? I mean, was their manufacturing even affected by this earthquake? So we don't know for sure. Again, this is all just kind of rumored stuff, but kind of reading between the lines, I mean, this could really affect Sony's, Q3 and Q4 for 2016 and what they're going to release, and really what their bottom line is going to be too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You start pushing some of these back, and you just don't know what's going to happen, because you're seeing companies like Canon that are seeing how important mirrorless is, guys. Mirrorless is extremely, extremely important. Canon gets it. Canon's seeing it. They put out the Canon EOS M, which was, I just have to be it's crap. Okay, guys. Bottom line, it's just crap. There's no way. I can't mince it, right? It's just really not that great. For $400, I mean, it's okay, but it's just not. It's not there. It's nothing compared to
It's not at the pro
Sonys
level that we would want.
Right. But we just found a patent that just came through for an EF-M 9 to 17 millimeter f3.5 to 5. And it's an STM lens. So it is for the mirrorless line. Now, does that mean that it's going to be for the EOS M? Maybe it's going to be for an EOS M2, maybe a Mark II coming out at Photokina. We don't know. Or maybe for a brand new mirrorless camera that they're working on. I don't know.
Utilizing the same lens mount.
Right. But seeing STM is there, and they are working on it, and they have a patent, and they're, you can see that push towards mirrorless is really, it's going to start taking hold on both Nikon and Canon. That's why Sony, they need to keep in front of the,
stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, again, back to reading the tea leaves here. The fact that they're talking about the M for the mirrorless mount is interesting. I mean, why file a new patent if they're doing away with the technology, right? And why create a patent for a new lens to be used on the old technology? So it doesn't really make sense. You would think that rumor had it. I mean, we talked about this in 2015, that in 2016, Canon was really going to be focusing a lot on mirrorless technology.
Right.
With the advent of the STM lenses and, being used for video and continuous focus and stuff like that, and with silent motors. Now, okay, you add that into this whole mix, and that to me says video, ideally 4K video, is going to be very important to this next mirrorless introduction that they make. I mean, this isn't rocket science, right? I mean, you would be kind of foolish to think that that's not what they're working on, but this is just additional proof that shows that this is probably the direction that they're going, and hopefully we'll see something good from them in September at Photokina.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about 4K, we were talking about this about a month ago or so, saying that the Canon EOS 5D Mark IV should be right around the corner.
Right.
And there was speculation that it was out already, and now it's pretty confirmed that some of the A-listers out there, Canon guys, now have their hands on an EOS 5D Mark IV. And the rumor has it that it does have 4K now. And it does shoot at 60 frames per second. Nothing else has really been said one way or another. But if that's the case, guys, that means that if they can do 60 frames per second at 4K, that standard HD 1080p will have a good 120 frames per second for slow-mo on that camera.
It should be double.
Which is ideal. More proof of the pudding here is, more proof is that it has a CFast version 2 slot in it. And we all know that just means speed.
Yeah, and 510 megabytes per second read right? I mean, that's that's crazy.
Yeah. So 4K is basically nothing. You could probably do 8K with that CFast without a problem. So.
Yeah, well, again, which we've talked about. I mean, that technology has got to be right around the corner. I mean, 4K has been around for what seems like an eternity in technology time, right? But, so we know 8K is right around the corner. The companies are already developing it. And, you should be able to, the CFast technology potentially could handle 8K. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that should be a problem. I don't think it should be a problem at all. 510 megs per second, that's pretty fast. Talking about 8K, we talked about this a couple of months ago, that we are thinking that Panasonic might actually introduce 8K at Photokina. If that's the case, back like what I said at that time, Canon and everyone's behind the 8-ball with their 4K just coming live now, 2016. It's like, what are you guys doing? And this has been the problem with Canon and Nikon.
Yeah.
They are they're doing iterations instead of innovations. And that is problematic. We're going to see how that goes. But
you would think with the technology behind these companies, the money behind these companies, that they could invest. And even though they didn't have a 4K offering on the market at the same time as some of these other cameras do, these other manufacturers do, that they maybe just say, all right, we're just going to go straight to 8K. We're going to bypass the whole 4K. Our cameras will be capable of 4K, but we're going to bypass that cap. We're going to go straight to 8K and try and be ahead of the curve this time instead of behind it. So,
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think that's going to happen either.
Talking about the speed at which Canon moves, as an example, like the tortoise and the hare being Sony and Canon being the tortoise. They talked about, they put out press information and releases in 2010, guys, about this amazing camera that was going to do 120 megapixel sensor.
Right.
And literally this year, at the Shanghai Expo, they're showing off the 120 megapixel sensor, the camera. Now, literally 6 years later. So, I don't know. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, your raw photos are what, 200 plus meg. Your pixels are like 13,000 by like 8,000 or 9,000 or something. It's just huge.
Yeah.
You can
huge
imagine
files.
Huge, absolutely huge. But look at the time frame, right?
Yeah. I don't know what they're doing. They're putting those pixels on one at a time or something. It's taking a long time, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting. 120 pixel, megapixel sensor. I mean, we're way into the medium format range for sure. But I'm guessing this is on a full size sensor, not a medium format, because they're saying that the camera is the EOS 5DS style body, and there's not enough room in there for a medium format sensor.
I mean, they could cram it. I mean, look at Sony. I mean, they crammed a full frame into a tiny. Literally, it could be a micro 4/3 size camera, and they have a full frame sensor. So, I mean, they can do it. They just need to get rid of some of the junk that they have in there. Get rid of the flapper. Do we need a mirror flapping around anymore? Just get rid of that. That's like a whole structure in there bouncing around that doesn't need to be there any longer. There's a lot of other things that they can get rid of to save space. We can go from CF. We can move, to just standard SD. That's going to save space. There's a lot of things that they can do, and I just hope that they do it. And the same thing with Nikon. They just need to kind of follow suit, because we're seeing Panasonic ramping up their game. We see Sony, I would say, is a leader right now when it comes to,
for sure,
when it comes to just technology, as a whole. So interesting times, Trevor. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. I have like a new found outlook on photography in general. I just really I'm enjoying it a lot now. There was a time when it was kind of stagnant a little bit for me. It was kind of nothing was really happening. Now there's a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, there really is, and I completely agree with that. I mean, the new technology that's coming out that seems it's at ever-changing pace. It's faster and faster all the time. It opens opportunities for photographers to explore new angles to their business or to their hobby. I mean, not everybody needs to be a professional photographer shooting for money and trying to make a living at it. But, as the competition increases, we always say you need to, set yourself apart. Make yourself different. I was just talking to a guy the other night at my son's lacrosse practice who is a freelance photographer. He's had his own business for many years. He's professionally trained. And, we were talking about the industry in general and stuff. And he's telling me that he lost a gig doing a portrait for some company because they said that they could get a good enough photo off of their iPhone. Right.
Yeah, this is what we're competing with.
This is the times we're living in, So we really need to do something special. We need to make ourselves different.
Right,
and
right.
what that is, you have to figure that out based on what you can palette here. But, the technology is moving. There's opportunity there if you are smart, if you're creative, and if you see the way to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and that's our job, guys. Our job
Absolutely.
is to kind of, I guess, lead you guys down the path to the next HDR.
Yep.
What is that next technology, or what is that next thing that will set you apart, just like you said.
Right.
Because we know that I could very easily take a perfectly adequate headshot with my iPhone with proper lighting and post-production, and no one would be the wiser at
That's right.
So being that said, we need to see what that next HDR, what that next twist is, so that we can go down that path. Just like drones are right now. All photographers now have a drone sitting there so they can do real estate shots and do this, that, and the other thing. That's good, but remember, these are fleeting moments, fleeting periods of time.
They are.
The bottom line is, you need to find them. You need to kind of exploit them when you can, but you always have to stay ahead of the curve.
That's right. Keep up with it. Doesn't mean buying the latest and greatest of every little thing that comes out, but staying abreast of all the latest knowledge. I mean, that's what we hope we're delivering to you. Finding these awesome topics of news and sharing them with you with our opinion, our commentary as to where we think the industry's going.
Right. So, all right, Trev,
All right.
It's time.
Yes, let's hit the road. We got stuff to do, right?
I know. Moving along.
That's right. So for our listeners and viewers want to connect with you outside of the show, what's the best way for them to reach you?
All right, guys. Find me on Twitter, and that's at Joseph Cristina. And as I always say, Cristina with no H.
That's right. And you can connect with me on Twitter. It's at Trevor Curran.
So, all right, everyone. We are out of here for yet another week. You can get all the show notes from this episode by visiting digitalphotographycafe.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/dphotocafe. And we'll see you next week. Take care, guys.
You've been watching the Digital Photography Cafe show with Trevor Curran and Joseph Cristina. Subscribe to our YouTube channel with any compatible device by visiting youtube.com/dphotocafe. Be sure to subscribe to our audio feed through iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Xbox Music apps, or through RSS. Visit digitalphotographycafe.com for show notes and to connect with your host.